Excellent, thank you very much. And let's thank all the wonderful speakers who just left the audience. Yeah, we need to wake up a little bit. I thought, to continue with the community engagement. What is it? Do we need to change the Prime Minister? Do we need the new law? Do we need a terrible punishment? No, maybe sometimes we just need to talk to our neighbor. So my question is, and I want you to raise your hands, who have spoken about the SDG things with your neighbors, with the people who live next to you? Raise your hands. Okay, well, about a half of you, thank you. The next question would be, have you spoken about it to your wife or your husband? But I'll leave it, you'll say that's too personal. Instead, I'll be happy to invite the wonderful speakers we have for the second part, the international ones, and please welcome them. Roland SCHATZ, the founder of the UNGSII Foundation. Roland, please. Senida MESI, former Deputy Prime Minister of Albania, Member of the Parliament, Development Economist, EU Commission Expert on Sustainable Finance. And we're very happy that Senida is today with us. And Conrad, LANDIS, economist from Athens University of Economics and Business, senior researcher at UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So please. And of course, to be serious, neighbor is important, family is important, but then how do we see what is happening today? How can we be sure that these SDG results and the activity is transparent? How do we report about it? And can we rely on this information? This will be covered by Roland, and there are great researchers about it. Now, how do we set the standards? The previous speakers spoke about it, and it is very important, but there will be more in it, a very scientific view, and the actual view also, how do we come to that in practice? And we'll talk more about projects that are important today, and the practice, and the law, and all these changes that Senida will cover with all your experience. Yes. I have one short question for each of you, and please answer it with a couple of sentences. What is the key motivation today? If we talk about SDG, well, let's say not the first stranger on the street knows this SDG, but what is the key motivation? How would you call it, Senida?
First of all, let me thank the organizer and Mr. Mayor for the invitation in this event, and thanks to all the citizens and to participants here for the hospitality. Brasov is really a beautiful city, so you are lucky to live there here. SDG stands for Sustainable Development Goals, yes, and everybody is hearing mostly these terms like sustainability, growth, development, green, inclusion, gender, why not youth, women-led participating businesses, and so on and so forth. Basically, how I see it is that when we are talking about the SDGs or the Agenda 2030, we have like the 5 P components, if I can call it so. It's about the people first, it's about the planet, so how we need to rethink or into a dimension to think together how to live better in the environmental conditions that we are having, but helping the planet not to die, and vice versa, planet will help us to live. So people, planet, prospect, peace, very much important, and partnership.
Thank you. That was a bit more than 2 sentences, but that's the Brussels standard, I understand. Conrad, your version, if you talk to a stranger or to a neighbor, what's the motivation?
The motivation is that we don't have the opportunity to fail with SDGs. It's something that we need to succeed with. It's something that refers to all the world, and it's something we should leave no one behind, and we need to succeed in the goals and we need to reach the agenda.
Okay, these are wonderful slogans, not too personal, too eager to make someone, you know, jump, but thank you, Roland.
I wanted to say exactly the same. There is no chance that we wake up on January 1st, 2031 and share with our children and our friends a new program. This will not happen. If we don't make it work until December 31, 2030, there will be no argument which we can bring forward to any of the authoritarian guys, the polemic people. We need to be successful. And maybe I'm allowed to add one aspect. We are in this already for quite a while. Now, everybody believes that the start of the SDGs was the 25th September 2015. But actually, there was already a guy who signed everything, what he did in his life with SDG. And this guy was Johann Sebastian Bach. So if somebody like Johann Sebastian Bach was already able to sign everything what he wrote and what he composed with SDG, I think we can conclude this.
What a great guy we have with us in the team, I'd say. Roland, so I suggest you start with your presentation, whatever is comfortable.
Yes. I hope my presentation is, it's okay, let's go one back. I moved during my life several times. I went from Bielefeld, where I was born, I went to Kronberg, then I went to Fribourg in Switzerland, I went to Bonn, to Zurich. You know what all these places had in common? Nobody visited me when I arrived. There was no delegation from the city, there was no delegation from the church, there was nobody saying, "Hi, Roland, great that you are here. Here are the things you need to know about our city, and actually, what are you interested in? What makes you tick? And how could we invite you to become part of our city?" That never took place till today. We heard yesterday from the friends in Tampere that their city is growing, and they're very proud about the growth of their city by 3,000 people every year. If you do your maths, that's 10 you need to visit every day if you want to do it from Monday to Friday. It's not necessary that the mayor is doing it. It could be a school director, it could be other people's. But as long as we have cities organized in the way that obviously nobody's aware that there are new people coming, how can we interact? How can we build community engagement? And as these things are not going in only in one direction, we have actually people who are leaving town. As I did, I left a lot of towns to move to the next one. And again, nobody asked me, "Why are you leaving us? What are the reasons?" Looking back, what would you have done different? So what I try to do in these next minutes, I try to share with you something that UN Habitat, which is within the UN family, the organization in charge of cities. You know, everybody knows UNICEF, in charge of children. We had our friends from WHO in charge of our health. Well, UN Habitat is responsible, or is the body of the cities. And UN Habitat understood. So they tried to develop together with us what we call a one-stop solution platform, a place where whatever is happening in town, one should be able to go online and learn about it. And not just to learn about it within this impression, we, the city, tell you what is going to happen, but in a way that it is interactive, that one can join in, that one can contribute, and that sooner or later the city becomes what cities used to be. When we all read these great books from the Greek times where it was called the agora, the marketplace where interaction and exchange took place. What UN Habitat, UNSDSN, and all the others within the UN family, as well as the European body, and more on a national level, what they try to understand and what they try to implement is, no matter which project you are planning, it would be good if you ask this one additional question: which of these 17 SDGs is this project serving? Because if we don't answer these questions, are we contributing to make sure that the citizens in town are not only feeling better, but that they are comfortable from an economic point of view? Zero poverty, no hunger, that things develop in the right direction. You can be sure that there won't be any citizen or community engagement if you are not able to answer these questions, and if you are not able to provide concrete data and solutions how this all fits into the overall goal of reaching the SDGs. When I started my work with the UN years ago, and we called it the perception change, what I learned from the beginning, and as you realized, I'm from the last millennium, I know guys like Johann Sebastian Bach. If you try to understand what makes change possible, and you are not including the fun factor, you've lost before you started. If we try to reach the SDGs, if we try to reach climate only with this scenario of threat, the scenario of horror, the scenario of fear, we will reach to a certain level. But if you want to get everybody involved, if you want to make sure nobody is left behind, you need to make sure that it's fun. That's why we started with the Kofi Annan Ambassador of Hope school competitions, where children were able to meet Kofi Annan, where the children were able to meet other people on the ideas of the children, not on the ideas of Kofi Annan. And I'd like you to click on this link with the video to give you an idea what is possible if you want to even implement something which is called sustainability in a whole country like Vietnam, as we did a few years ago. Can you click on this? The music is already good. Now we need the pictures to it. And open up the screen. My father told me, tell me what you need, and I tell you who you are. Because once you are caught by this disease, reading, you will never get out.
Through reading books, I think what you learn is you learn the power and you learn the value of listening.
When you read through a book, it's like a journey that you go through.
The book, I think, is some kind of door opener to be successful. It's some kind of appetizer to read more, I think.
I think the idea was really to introduce the idea of reading to young people in Vietnam.
So we started 3 years ago together with the United Nations Academic Impact Program, that we had essay competitions here at universities in Vietnam. So now Chairman Wu said, we need to take it to the next level. So he decided to print 20 million books, and he's distributing these 20 million books to everybody in Vietnam who's interested in them, students, academics, managers, whoever. And then we thought in May we should have a group of experts coming from different parts in the world to start a debate and increase a wave.
The idea of having students together with people from different parts of the world and experts in different areas come together and have that discussion encourages the youth to form that opinion, encourages the youth to kind of open their minds to different opinions.
It's a very special, very moving atmosphere to see so many young people being so interested in what a bunch of Europeans or North Americans have to tell them.
Oh, it's very interesting. The Vietnamese kids have a certain amount of energy that's very inspiring.
An amazing energy, tons of potential, lots of young people that are interested, that want to read, that want to learn, that are just at the beginning of a great journey to make this country just a country of prosperity.
You know, I think that's what will kind of lead Vietnam into the future, which is kind of that dynamism that the young people have.
The median age in Vietnam is 29, one half of the whole society. Nearly 50 million people are under 29.
What I find special is that many of the students, they come and they try to talk.
The kids came up and asked questions because that allowed us to understand what was really on people's minds.
I think the session in the coffee shop, it was very interesting because we had there young people and it was very well prepared.
Everywhere where we have these events around the book giving tour, we have all this energy and the hunger at the same time to learn and being open for change. I never saw this before.
That's a very uplifting experience for me.
I mean, I really enjoyed talking to them, and I think this was a very interesting exercise for me as well.
I see myself in their shoes, and I see myself also going through that process when I was at their age, and I still go through that process today.
Maybe we could inspire one or two of them to make a difference for this country, for their nation, and maybe even, on a more global scale.
The message I would love to give to them is there are things that are a lot more important than money.
My message was, you have now all chances, and this situation, it has some kind of responsibility for you.
The next generation has to take over. I mean, that is a law of nature.
I encourage them to listen to each other, to listen to other people from diverse cultures, from diverse backgrounds, and then take all of that with the knowledge that they find in these 5 books and other books, take that and then forge their own way, their own future.
One word and one term.
Passion and curiosity.
Energy.
Potential.
Applying what you read.
Fascinating.
It's a sense of happiness.
Some kind of miracle, I must say.
When I came first to Vietnam 4 years ago, I was a little bit irritated about the term happiness and love. They are using these terms, happiness and love, almost everywhere. So I felt a little bit uncomfortable because these 2 terms mean so much to me. But I have to say, after 4 years, and especially experience this 1 week, my word would be love. Thank you. Did you see the eyes of the people? When you start thinking about community engagement, the first thing what we need to think about is how can we get the people be enjoying it, be truly involved. And the best way of doing that is that you are not just thinking about one event, but you need to have something going on. You don't need to have that every day. But if you don't have something getting back to the people, your best friends, you know, they pay your taxes, they are in your schools, they are in the companies, they are in the hospitals, they are everywhere. If you don't reach out to them and you get feedback at least once per quarter, it's almost as if you haven't done one event. We have this saying in Germany, one is like nothing. And that is why whatever we need to, and what we plan in order to get community engagement up and running, we need to make sure that we are able to get back to those we would like to engage. The moment you have that, and it's almost doesn't matter on what you try to get them involved, they become part of the family, a family called Brajov, a family called Timishwa, a family called Yash. If you are not able to do that, then do not even try to do these once per year events, because at the end of the day, they are only causing frustration. There are so many things how we can include. What I'm really passionate about are two things. One is planting trees, and at the same time creating something what we call an SDG card. Our friend Vlad was speaking about the problem we have with the trees, that we lose so many trees to criminal activities. We are not only losing trees to criminal activities, we are losing trees because forests are burning, we are losing trees because there's not enough water, etc., etc., etc. We need to plant 1 trillion trees. Not necessary in our neighborhood, we can do it in other places. But this can be organized in a way that people enjoy it. You can't plant trees every year, that is what I learned. It's either in spring or it's in fall. You can turn it into activities which show true citizen engagement. And you can turn it into money, because every tree you plant will create carbon credits, which at the end of the day, depending on what type of trees you are planting, is even able to pay the university of my 2 daughters. We need to think completely different on how we engage the pupils and the students. Again, the best thing is what Mihai said. You don't need to invent the wheel twice. Things are already existing. Let's just do a little bit more research and a little bit more interaction between people like Mihai, Alan, Senida, all the people who are here in the room. All of us have ideas, have experience. Because if we do that, we are not only able to help these friends with a great future, we can find, and I'm 100% sure that it is possible, we can find economically robust ways that this is not a project which needs to be financed by government through taxpayers' money, so it's at the end us. It is true circular economy if we understand it correctly. You had no idea how happy these children were when we invited them to become part of the first SDG orchestra. We had kids from Romania. They were among the best within this orchestra. So I would like to end on this note that whatever you do, please repeat it. Don't think that you do it only once. Think about doing things once per quarter. And once you did it, share it with others. because if the world would know what the world is doing, we would implement the SDGs by December 31, 2030. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roland, for inspiring stories. And so we'll continue now, Conrad, with your, I think, more down-to-earth ideas on how do we set the standards. Please. Yeah, probably. And we'll have the second presentation on, please. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here. So let me first introduce, before I start talking for our projects related to SDGs, let me, for a couple of minutes, introduce ourselves. So we are I4IA, which in Greek means sustainability, and we are a cluster of institutions and accelerators and networks, all under, all founded or directed or chaired by Professor Dr. Phoebe Kunturi, which is the president of the European Association of Environmental Resource Economics. Just provide a couple of details. Our research institutions are to RESI's lab at the Athens University of Economics and Business and Athens Sustainability Development Center, and also management, the Department of Management and Economics in Denmark Technical University. We also have, we run the Sustainable Development Solution Network, the Global Climate Hub, where we build solutions for assisting policymakers in on the way to decarbonization to 2030, and we also have, we are also associated with SDSN Europe and SDSN Greece, and we have a high involvement in Water Europe and the Nexus cluster. So I'm pretty sure you're all familiar with the Sustainable Development reports that SDSN publishes every year. So we're currently working on downscaling the current report, which is at a national level. We are trying to downscale it at subnational level. So for Greece, we have started the publication that performs that. We calculate the dashboards, which shows the programs at the subnational NUTS 2 level for Greece. So, and we're planning on expanding this analysis to cities also, and to municipalities through cities. Okay, and we can see here on these results that most of the 13 administrative distinct regions in Greece face major or significant challenges for in achieving the SDGs. So in the same sense, we have also expanded the analysis to calculate relevant dashboards at an institutional level. For example, we have dashboards for universities. More importantly, though, we have worked on calculating the SDG dashboards at the company level. So we have developed a holistic three-step approach, which is necessary for the companies in order to create value beyond simple compliance in ESG metrics. So our approach contains 3 steps. The first step is we work with companies in mapping, in performing stakeholder mapping, and in mapping the value chain, the services, and the products of the company. So this is important to give us the opportunity to define the KPIs, the ESG KPIs, which are very specific and relevant for this company. And we do have a pool of ESG KPIs that are a superset from all the KPIs used by the most common standards, right? The currently used standards. So our methodology, actually, we map the relevant KPIs by using 2 sets of KPIs, which are generic, which apply to all companies, and we have some KPIs which are very specific for the sector and the specific unit or the specific product for the company. So the next step, what's important is not to just remain on the classic ESG metrics. We need actually to calculate the dashboard relevant to SDG. We need the SDG footprint of company, of its entire value chain, of its products. Okay, so the SDG framework's more holistic than ESG. And so our final step would be to match the ESG's KPIs into the SDGs. So our sustainability assessment dashboard comes as a set of 6 ESG transformations that need to be applied in companies in order to increase their value, that is in order to increase the level of implementation of SDGs. So we have 6 transformations that are sets, that are actually combinations of ESG KPIs, which are dynamically mapped into the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So we can create a company, an SDG dashboard at a company level together with the trends for and estimates if we are on the right pathway for achieving the goals in 2030. And apart from that, we also integrate, which is very important, integrate the ecosystem valuation into decision-making and the dashboards, okay? So what we do here is integrate actually benefits and costs from the SDG performance. We try to answer the question why we need a good ESG, why it is good to have a high ESG score, all right? In terms of SDGs, companies actually need to quantify and monetize their impact on all forms of capital, natural capital, social capital, and of course, produced capital. Okay, so in this step, we integrate into the dashboard the prices from the underlying ecosystem services used which are relevant along the value chain of the company. Okay, and here we have some relevant results by calculating the willingness to pay, that is the price for ecosystem services for all types of ecosystem services in all countries around Europe. Okay, so this is a very first step. It's a useful tool in order to translate the dashboard, the ESG dashboard considerations into economic values and then support the design and creation of actually meaningful hybrid metrics. That is, metrics that combine both financial KPIs and SDG KPIs. And which is actually what we need. We need to be able to at a company level to measure what is the gap in the implementation of specific SDGs and where we need to give more finance to and identify probably the gap in financing also the SDGs. And we need that at a company level, okay? So thank you, that was a quick presentation of my points.
This should be amazing collecting of information, first of all. So very briefly, I have a few questions, but not that much time. Still, how different it is now from country to country? I mean, are there leaders in just collecting all this information according to standards, and are there those where it is not going that well?
I think it's absolutely necessary we align the standards. So we need a unique way of reporting ESGs, but not only ESGs, better SDGs at the company level, which is more holistic. And it's very important to have a unique way of, a unique set of KPIs which are accepted by companies at different countries and at different regions.
And then the key thing in this mechanism will be the footprint of each product?
Yes, would be the SDG footprint of each company broken down at product level and at unit level.
Could that be...
So we do have the SDG footprint of a company along its value chain, all its units, or by product groups.
Well, it's a different standard of having business. That's what I think it should be. Are all the necessary laws already there? Or you need to work on it?
We are on the way there.
Thank you. Thank you, Conrad. Thank you. Well, then, Senida, first, from what you've just heard now, which was very much down to the life, to how each company should exist in the nearest future and or already now, how difficult do you see it from your experience of being member of a parliament and now being EU Commission expert on sustainable finance? Would companies be, I mean, there are companies who really wish to be so, and Roland can talk more about it because through media tenor, it is seen. We can really observe what they are already. But to make them willing, what do we need?
Thank you for the question, but before going there, meanwhile, I was stepping up to the scene. I was reading a tweet of Trudeau, the PM of Canada, and saying that in each cabinet meeting we are having this week, and in each single one we are going to stay focused on how we can make your life more affordable, fight climate changes, create good middle-class jobs, and keep building an economy that works for all Canadians. I mean, and immediately to my mind was the question, isn't this the role of each of the government, meaning central and local, and definitely in each of the government, which is elected by free will and free votes of the citizens. You know, you are there to serve, and you are there to do the best that you can, to listen to the needs of your citizens and deliver ideas, deliver projects, deliver services, and at the end of the day, create jobs. And if you create jobs, then you have more money, then improve the economic and social environment with the main focus to have a betterment, or at least to be better today than we were tomorrow, or to think for the future that the future will be better than today. And being both as a former banker and former politician, working both, even in local level, but even in a central level, I mean, I think that beyond the serving idea, and we are here to serve, and we need to serve to our community, is now that I think that we need even to act as leader and to inspire. So what we can do, because I fear that everybody is expecting from the politician to deliver everything. At the end of the day, the politician need to create the infrastructure, how the citizen can promote themselves, how the businesses can grow. And the politicians are there to set up the rules, laws, legislation. Conrad said that, yeah, we are in the way of legislation. It's a good way, a diplomatic way to say, no, we don't have everything yet in place. So it's a big no. We have something, but we need to improve in order to be readable, acceptable, and implemented. Sometimes we approve some laws which are beautiful in papers, but very terrible in the implementation. So yes, in the community engagement, I think that at the end of the day, we are approving laws and rules and policies and strategies to be implemented for the people, for their betterment, not for the betterment of the political parties that are in place. When I mentioned before the 5 Ps, for me, one of the most important, not that people and planet and prospect and peace is not important, absolutely it's very much important, but when we are talking about partnership, for me it's very much important. I was hearing yesterday the mayor of Brasov, I was listening to him very carefully even today, how passionate is he about not simply the green cities, but really to improve and to bring the change in this municipality. I wish I could see more politicians really talking about down to earth, talking about concrete plans, and having the support. I know that in the municipality of Brasov, the mayor doesn't have the majority of political votes, and believe me, this is terrible. I faced it when I was working in my municipality. Even if it's a good idea coming from the mayor or coming from any of the political parties, especially in minority, then the majority that have the votes, and this is the dilemma of democracy, always the majority wins over the minority. It doesn't matter how good is the idea. And how difficult it is for a mayor to really go straight forward and to implement every kind of new project. And believe me, in the local level, it's more talking about people and their betterment, how we can improve their life, how can they improve the education, how we can improve the, I mean, how we can decrease the bill of the electricity, or if we cannot decrease the bill of electricity, how we can help the people that are not able to pay it. So at the end of the day, we are talking about our next neighbor, we are talking about our cousin, we are talking about the friend of a friend, or the parent of our kids' friend. So when we are talking about the local politics, always, and my message, and it's, the leader should inspire, but he needs to have partnership. Doesn't matter what kind of political party he or she is working with, because at the end of the day, we are talking about improving the lives. The big politics is always a big politics. Always you have the opponent, but when it's something good, we need to accept that it's good, and then we need to promote it. Working in the partnership area, what I wanted to mention is that why we need the citizen. And when we are talking about citizen, it's not only the individual. It's the individual, is civil society, the academia, students, because they produce at the end of the day this kind of paper that Conrad was explaining. So they create the methodology, and then they prove that the methodology is right. But we need even the media to transmit it as it should be transmitted, because the media at the end of the day can destroy an image, can destroy a project, or can promote a really good project and seek and fight for the truth. So basically, my message, or in the ideal world, how should community be engaged and delivered? It's like not simply in the council, city council, because the city council is supposed to be the representative of all the dimension, meaning gender, meaning age, meaning the background, and even political party. But even in a lot of, I don't know, budget participatory, for example, practice. So whenever it's a time to approve the budget, which I do believe usually in most of the countries it's late summer, so August, September, because at the end of the year you need to have everything written and prepared and approved to include as much as possible the citizen. I faced by myself, and before entering or deciding to enter in the politics, because it's always difficult. When you are working in private institution, you are a banker, and then suddenly you say goodbye to that life and then enter in politics. It's exactly the question that, or always a dilemma, should I enter and contribute, whatever the level it is, or should I expect it from the others? You have two choices: to complain as a citizen and to say they should do something, which they means the elected persons, the politicians,
That's what
the mayor.
often happens when they hear it from politicians.
Yeah, they don't know how to do it. They are corrupt. They think only for themselves. They don't deliver. They should act more responsibility, with more accountability. They. And instead, what you are doing is complaining. So maybe you are sitting in a bar with friends and then complaining for them. Or you take action. And which is the action? You get involved. Doesn't matter how you get involved. Personally, I start the involvement into the local politics with the civil society, and raising the voice against some politics, some decision, or raising the voice not simply against something, but promoting a good initiative or suggesting a good initiative. Then you don't know what life is sending you up to the parliament or up to the municipality, it doesn't matter, but you are an engaged citizen. Why we need to engage, and why even the politician needs the citizens. They can set up priorities and better objectives for themselves. Not simply because they know better what's the problem, but they will help later on even to achieve these objectives. Be in objectives for education, be in objectives for health, for economic growth, for culture, for sport, whatsoever, because in the community you have a different representative from different target groups. So once you set up the objectives, where we are going to go in the next year, in the next 5 years, or in 2030, or in 2015 together, then definitely they know what is expected from them. They know how to even ask and demand to be, for the government, local, central, to be accountable, to say, hey, we set up this together. We are going to help you, but you are going to deliver. So it's much more a transparent government. Politicians usually often don't like this, because they need to take the decision by themselves and not to be asked later on. So it's much more easy to promise something in election and then deliver some of that, or cut some ribbons of one investment 2 or 3 times, because yeah, it's always a nice picture to cut a ribbon before, after, and during the process of building something or reconstructing something. But what we need to evaluate and to appreciate are the really concrete efforts that a person is really doing. And what I saw here in Brasov, I really appreciate the fact that the community here, the staff of the municipality, the participants in this conference, are really trying to find alternative solution to become better in the future. What I'm saying better is to live in much more harmony with the environment, to live cheaper and in a much more efficient way, to have a health system that is functioning for everybody, and everybody is paying less or is not paying at all if they are not able to afford the health system, and a better education system which can improve the future generations and the future decisions as well.
Thank you. It was a brief masterclass on governing. Thank you, Senida. Now, I have some questions here coming, and please use this WhatsApp number that doesn't change to send the questions. I will now ask my speakers to be brief in answers so we can make more. Roland, business is about making profit, and they openly say it, and there's nothing wrong with it. So how do they change their attitude to SDGs in the recent time, and why?
Because SDGs are profit. The first thing what we did when we set up the UNGSII Foundation was we wanted to prove that the top 500 stock-listed companies, if they are committed to the SDGs in a legal binding way, so not how they write their sustainability report, which they shouldn't do. The trees are far too valuable. But in the annual report, where the chairman, where the CEO, where the CFO explain how they spent their money last year and what they are going to do in future. There are 2 parts of an annual report. One part is the financial sector or the financial element, where you put all the numbers, like how many train tickets did you need and how many desks did you buy for your employees. And we all know that this financial section of an annual part of an annual report is to be interpreted, to put it diplomatic. But the other section of the annual report, where the chairman, where the CEO, where the CFO explain exactly what they did, and they have to sign it before they send it to the authorities in order to be allowed to continue receiving money from the public. When you read this, and we did this, we analyzed every single sentence of these 500 stock-listed companies, in total almost 800,000 sentences. My team read it line by line, and we categorized them according to the SDGs, actually more precise, to the 169 targets. And we handed these data over to the former president of NASDAQ, Al Berkeley, and we said, create a fund out of this. And you can do whatever you want, except for one thing. You're not allowed to invest in one stock where the company is not mentioning one of the 17 SDGs. That was the rule. And guess what? The SCR 500 was outperforming the MSCI World from day one on, all the way throughout the last 5 years. You make more money being committed, being transparent on the SDGs as Volkswagen, as Toyota, as GE, than if you hide. Why is this the case? Because every bank needs to know what you are going to do. And meanwhile, every bank knows that the numbers sent to the bank are numbers. They need to know what is the company, what are the company leaders passionate about. If they are communicating this, they are not getting better conditions at the financial markets, they get better access to high qualified young labor, which will be the biggest challenge in future. Once the baby boomers like me are gone, then there's a real fight for good employees, etc., etc. So SDGs is business, SDGs is profit, as long as you are not cheating. There is now a group who's trying to do greenwashing. That doesn't work. Call Frankfurt, Deutsche Bank, and you see how it's not working.
Conrad, going from there, do you expect there'll be a number of businesses, maybe of a smaller size, who'd be coming to authorities saying, we don't have money to implement because it requires more expensive technologies, it requires the changes that would lead to extra expenses, and etc., etc. Do you want bankruptcy? No, the answer would be.
Yes, we expect that. There will be, it is very important for small businesses to want to be sustainable. So I estimate that the funds to close the gap in the implementation of the SDGs will be directed, of course, to companies which can prove that are sustainable and on the path to sustainability.
Okay, couple questions that are already here. Soon the world will celebrate 7 years since the adoption of the SDG goals. How do you evaluate the implementation? Do you think 2030 is still a realistic deadline, taking in consideration the actual challenges the world faces? What I want you to do, to adding to this question, is from 1 to 10, if we say 10 is perfect, maximum, and 0 is nothing, 1 is almost nothing, give a mark. How are we approaching there? And then a couple more sentences of what you think. Let's start with you, Conrad, and then I want everyone to comment.
Yeah, internationally?
Yes?
I think we are at the very low level of implementation.
Well,
yeah.
Give the figure.
It's 30%.
Okay, you say 3.3.
Exactly.
And the main problem?
We have a long way to go there.
Okay, okay. Senida, what's your evaluation?
The SDGs Agenda 2030 was approved in 2015, and I think was a unique moment because all head of states, member of UN, signed this agenda. The next year will be the next meeting, the first general meeting of head of state in New York, UN, in order to really evaluate what was happening so far. So 2015, 2023, so 7 years before the famous 2030. And having actually seen the political situation, the geopolitics around the world, I do believe that will be much more difficult, and some of the countries maybe will not be even seated at all in that in the table. Meanwhile, you need the cooperation and the partnership with everybody to achieve everything. Now we are facing an energy crisis. Europe is facing an energy crisis because of a war happening next to us. So I don't know what is happening in the future with the climate changes, with the increasing of the temperature, with the melting down of the ices. So always you have this kind of issue that we are talking and talking, and the problems that we are facing now, I mean, even in the SDG index that you presented kind of shortly in a slide, the last 2 years, it was a stagnation for all the countries,
right.
Not only
Pandemic.
for Romania, Albania, Switzerland, Germany, or Greece. All the countries were stagnating, with one condition better, that no poverty, no hunger, and SDG number dealing with health and well-being, 3, was improving. Why? Because all the world suddenly discovered that health is important because of the pandemic.
Yes.
And all the budgetary approval and all the budgets was much more allocated into the health, well-being, and social improvement. That's why we saw really a good increasement in these 3 SDGs, the first, second, and the third. But this doesn't mean that we need to wait for the war to improve the energy, or we need to wait for another apocalypse to work in the, I don't know, life under the sea or life beyond Earth, so in the Earth. So my message is that, yeah, we need actions, and the actions need to be not more into the taxonomy, into the policies and procedure we have already there. We need to develop kind of concrete, as the guys, Roland and Conrad and other presentations that I see here are presenting, to really see if it's functioning. Then we need to multiply them.
And the figure from 1 to 10?
I mean, Nordic countries are really good, 80%, 90%.
Okay.
The north of Europe.
Yes.
Japan, some countries in Asia. By the way, Asia is one of the countries that is not stagnating, is improving since 2015 and now.
It's very different there economically.
Yeah, but these are good examples. These are good examples for the rest of us to really copy and paste special. So to see what is functioning there and what I can copy out of there to be functioning in my city as well.
And in average, it's hard to say still.
No, I cannot say. I wouldn't like to, okay, figures helps, but I don't like to put figures out of, it will be like, you know, not even an educated guess. It will be like, put a figure and then, let's be a little bit more optimistic. Let's say it 40%.
Well, finally, I got the figure. Yes, 40%. Thank you. Roland, your turn.
I would say 2, but not because I'm pessimistic, but because I know that the heavy lifting is from 0 to 0.1 to 0.2, and then now as we reach 2, from 2 to 10 is 10 times easier. Why do I believe this? Would you think that a country like Botswana was already doing their national budget in 2017 along the SDGs? How cool is this? Out of these top 500 companies, 20% are writing their annual report along the 17 SDGs. I mean, this is a miracle. We would never have thought that. And life is not a linear thing, as we all know. It goes up and down. So it depends a little bit on where you put the limelight in future, but if we are able to look a little bit more to the Nordic countries, to Japan, to those who are actually doing things, rather than focusing only on those who are doing either nothing or who are fighting against it, I'm still optimistic we can do it.
Thank you. In general, not that much optimistic. Everyone was below 50%. There's one personal question for you. Well,
optimism is not reduced to 20 or 30 or 40. I think the three of us are super optimistic.
Well, that is now more getting into philosophy. Now, Roland, question is like this. You're coming from Switzerland, one of the richest countries in the world. Some may say, of course you talk about facing climate change. You don't need to take care about hunger, unemployment, extreme poverty. What's your message for the poor countries? How could they focus on climate change when they have so many other urgent problems?
That's an unfair question because I live in Switzerland, but I still feel being a German. If I would be Swiss, I would probably get back in 500 years to you and talk about the SDGs. I agree, but the Swiss love to watch others and wait for 50 years or 100 or 500 years before they start. So they are not early adopters. No, I think seeing countries who were in more dramatic situations, like Finland. I love the Finns. 40 years ago, they were the #1 country with the highest rate of people committing suicide. I mean, is there a more dramatic call, a more dramatic statement to say, I'm not satisfied with my country, than that you say, I even end my life? Finland was the #1 country where the most people committed suicide. Now, 40 years later, which is the country with the highest satisfaction rate? Finland. So if the Finns can do that without any sun and with really challenging conditions, they managed to do it. Why are we not doing it?
One more question for Mr. SCHATZ. Regarding the 17 factors taken into consideration, would you think to change or to add another one, seeing the current evolution of facts in the world?
Oh no, absolutely not. I would reduce all the 17 to one, which is SDG 17. The reason why we are in this shit in which we are is because we had countries who thought that they are leading, but they defined a game which is called win-lose. Let's work together and I win and you lose.
No, let's work together and win.
Aha. So that's SDG 17. So I don't see any end of globalization. I don't see any end of doing things together. But what I see is the absolute correct question towards America and many other countries. How have you treated us the last 100 years? Was this win-win or was this win-lose? We want win-win. And the moment we get into win-win, and there is no better example than the SDGs, this is win-win. SDG 10, nobody is left behind. If we get into this spirit, I'm completely confident. And when I see my daughters, when I see the daughters of Gareth, you know, I'm close to 9.9. But there are more people than just our daughters, unfortunately.
Yes?
I wanted to add even something else, because it's very much important how you see the thing. So if you want to, not simply optimistic or pessimistic, but how you can promote and how you see the future. You know, to the question that we are thinking, you know, we don't have to eat, we are, you know, hunger, and the poverty is up to here. So I cannot move to the 3rd and 4th or to the 15th of the objectives, because first I need to eat. And this is the problem in the mindset. So if we are waiting for the charity, because I call it charity, once you invest today for tomorrow, to subsidize to eat tomorrow, to subsidize to go to school, to subsidize to, I don't know, pay some bills, then what you are doing? You are creating an economy and a citizen, a culture which you wait and somebody will think about you. And this somebody basically is just giving you to eat today for tomorrow. But when you think in climate changes, when you think into the energy, when you think about sustainability, when you think about, I don't know, sustainable agriculture or urban agriculture, you know that it is estimated that actually half of the world is living in urban areas. But in 2015, more than 2/3 of the world will live into the urban cities. So we need to think now how we are going to develop, to plan the cities in order to afford all this number of people and citizens that will live in the city, in the urban area. And what does this mean? This means that you are creating today a contingent which is really well educated. They know that you train them for new skills, and with the idea that you create even new jobs. And if you give them skills, if you give them new jobs, then nobody will talk about poverty, and then nobody will talk about hunger anymore. They will talk about, okay, I have now to eat, definitely I have a good salary, I have good skills, I can promote my skills, and I can have a job. But what's next is that I want to think a little bit smarter, maybe
learn how
become
to
a little
catch
bit
the fish
richer.
rather than receive, rather
If
than
I
just
hear
get the
programs
fish.
and projects which is really give charity, then I will say a big no. But if I see projects which are investing in the future, in the education, in the economic growth, in the inclusion, then I say yes, because this will create new jobs and new skills, obviously.
Thank you very much. Well, time is over, unfortunately. Just one word as an answer from each of you. What initiatives we need most, Conrad? Like you'd say, well, this should really be on top if we're talking about initiatives.
I think should be on sustainable finance.
Finance.
Yes.
Sustainable finance. Yes. Senida, where is the most miscommunication now? We have so many players, we have so many partners, we talk a lot about it. You are on different levels because you travel to Brussels, I know, once a month. You work in your country. Where is the most miscommunication?
I think that we tend not to listen to each other, and we communicate in the same, I don't know, in the big theater, but in different rooms of the theater. So the miscommunication is everybody need to communicate in the big plenary room so everybody can listen to everybody.
Thank you. That's an important idea. Roland, and for you, if we are to name the resources for cities, what do we need most? Resources.
No money. We need to talk with each other and get excited. You don't need money for that. You need a will.
Super. Excitement and will. That's what is going to take us forward. Thank you very much. And Roland, SCHATZ, Senida, MESI, and Conrad, LANDIS. Thank you. Given a conclusion, I can only say that more materials will be available on the website as usual. And please join us for the gala tonight. 7 o'clock, we'll have the gala for companies and cities SDG Awards, where you'll find out more about the transparency reports and the best. Thank you very much.